Tuck and Tuck Show.
Oberlin, we are here for the Tuck and Tuck Show. We got our special guest, Greg Friedman, who worked at JVS, and there's some other stuff we're going to talk to him about, but we're going to start out with the JVS issue. How was it working out there, and how long did you work there?
I enjoyed working there like anything. I was meant to teach. You talk to any of my former students, they'll tell you that I loved it. I loved every day. In fact, I didn't miss many days. Taught there for total time teaching 26 years, so I was there 22. Yeah, I taught computers and accounting quite a bit.
Computers and accounting, okay.
Moved on to network communication. I taught programming all the time, no matter what I was teaching. And then when I got to network communication, it was more of the network end.
Right. Now, before you started at JVS, like, where are you from, and where'd you get started at? Because I know you were in the Navy. So how'd you come to get here?
Well, I grew up in Kent, Ohio. I grew up before, during, and after the riots. It was a fun city to live in, but my goal when I turned 18 and graduated high school was to go into the Navy and get out of the Navy and go to college. I was the seventh of 9 children. I was a skinny guy. I mean,
you're not that big now, so
I was, but I was a skinny guy. He who eats the fastest gets the mostest, and I had short arms. When I got my degree from Kent State, I started teaching at Sandusky at Ehovie JVS. It's not called JVS; it's just Ehovie, and taught 2 years there, and then moved to the Lorain County JVS. Made some great friends. Have some former students I still keep in contact with.
Okay. Now, you said you were in the Navy at some point?
I was. For 4 years, I served in the U.S. Navy. The first 2 years, ironically, I joined the Navy to see the world. I ended up in Cleveland. I was part of a
wow. Wow, what a disappointment.
For most people, that's their dream, to stay home. It actually was a dream, but I had trained in payroll, basically, dispersing, and they were changing over from military pay records to computerized pay, to the jump system at the time. And if you were in the armed forces, you'd remember the jump system, I'm sure, because you're younger.
I was never in the armed forces.
Oh, okay. Whoever was. But once we changed it over to the pay records, we had to, from the pay records to jumps, which was Joint Uniform Military Pay System, we had to teach civilians how to maintain these records so that they could verify them when the data came in to make sure everybody's stuff was right. I taught 3 classes of civilians how to about Navy payroll, and I evidently taught them well enough that they got my job, and I went to a ship. Went to a great ship, a supply ship, the ship that brought King Tut's treasures to the United States.
Really?
Yeah, the USS Sylvania, and it's named after Sylvania, Ohio.
I didn't know any of that.
Me neither.
Hey, I'm always a teacher, if nothing else.
So now, when you were in Cleveland, you weren't on a boat at all?
No. I was stationed in the Celebrezzi Federal Building, 26th floor, back when the Indians really stunk, and we could watch out the window and watch. There were probably as many people watching out the window at the game as there were at the games during the day. But back then, you'd go to a game. If you wore your uniform, which we never did, it was 50 cents. If you didn't, with a military ID, it was $1.
Wow. What year was that? You remember?
That's all they were. That's all they were worth
75?
at that time anyway, to go see them.
75 through 77, back when Frank Robinson was manager.
Okay. Boog Powell wasn't there.
Boog was still there. Boog was still there.
Did they wear those god-awful all-red uniforms?
Well, that's when they referred to Mike Hargrove as the human blood
rain
clot.
delay. Yeah.
Well, he was the rain delay. You're right. Boog Powell was the blood clot as he rounded the bases.
Yeah, I went down there some years later when I seen Nolan Ryan pitch his last game, and there's about 3,000 people there at the most.
Yeah.
But that was at the beginning of Lofton, Bell, Viaga.
So you're going back to about 94 or so.
94, yeah. And I remember watching Kenny Lofton hit one in the gap, and Junior Ortiz was the catcher, and he almost caught him before he got to third base. That's how well he was super fast, and Ortiz wasn't that fast.
He scored from second on a passed ball in the World Series. No, the ALC. Yes.
Right. Those were some difficult days for Indians and Browns fans.
Yes.
For all of us. But anyway, now you're here to talk about
something different.
Something different in
Something
sports.
different.
And now you said you had a heart transplant.
I did.
But before that, what led up to that?
Well, just a couple years. Well, 1996, I had a heart attack. I had just got back from taking a bunch of students to some national competition in Phoenix, Arizona. Got back, spoke the next day to a bunch of students about whatever business topic it was. I don't even remember at the time. I actually do, but it's not relevant. And went home that night and proceeded to have a heart attack. Went to the hospital and woke up a week later, and the doctor said they had to put a defibrillator in me. And this is an important part of it. The defibrillator went under my chest, under the skin right here, and ironically felt like a pack of cigarettes because I was a heavy smoker at the time.
Oh, okay.
So I had this reminder that I smoked there. And its job was to, when my heart stopped working right, when it went into arrhythmia or dysrhythmia, it would shock me. Over the first couple months, I got shocked about 35, 40 times. Wow. There was some stuff wrong, so they worked on medications, got me all better-ish. I had been evaluated for a transplant then. They took me off the list because things were going well until 2006. 2006, that's where the story begins.
Okay. Now, the heart attack that you had, there's different kinds of heart attacks.
It was massive. It was it blew out the left ventricle, the pumping chamber.
Okay. Now, I'm not
right.
all that smart on medical stuff, but I know that they do have, like some people have heart attacks called the widowmaker. And that wasn't that, though, because they said you only got like 30 minutes, and you're done after that.
Not many people make it through that. You're right. No, mine was, it was caused by blockage. I did have 100% blockage in the main artery and 75 on two other ones. And they went in, and they don't do much of this anymore, but they did angioplasty, where they shoot the balloon in there and blow it up and cleaned it out. And they have I have before and after pictures of that. It's pretty cool. It looks like a barren wasteland, and all of a sudden there's blood flowing everywhere. It just fixed me up, but that didn't fix the idea that the left chamber wasn't working anymore. So I made it 10 more years until they put me on the transplant list.
Okay. And we're going to stop there and go to break, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Okay.
Hi, welcome to the ARB.
Looking for an excellent restaurant? Then visit the ARB at Tappan Square, located at 19 West College Street in beautiful downtown Oberlin. Serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in or take it to go. Visit www.thearboberlin.com to order online. The ARB is open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Be sure to visit the ARB at Tappan Square in Oberlin today.
Thanks for coming to the ARB. Come back again. Bye.
Hi, I'm Doobies, and this is Doobies Smoke Shop.
That's what I'm talking about.
Doobies Smoke Shop is located at 25 West College Street in beautiful downtown Oberlin. Doobies has an excellent selection of incense, candles, cones, glass cleaner, and so much more. Stop on by Doobies Smoke Shop located at 25 West College Street today.
Welcome back to the Tuck and Tuck Show.
All right, we're back with the Tuck and Tuck Show, and we're back with Greg Friedman. And before we left, you were telling us about what happened in 2006.
Right.
So if you want to continue, tell us what happened after
Well,
that.
let me go back a little bit because it's something we sort of talked about in the interim. When I had my heart attack in 96, I was doing some stuff. I went outside, played basketball with my son, came back inside, and I was breathing real heavy. And I didn't know what was going on. I said to my wife, I think I'm having a heart attack. And she put her head on my chest and listened. She says, it sounds okay to me. Now, that sounds really mean that I'm even saying that. But some of the things she did for me after my transplant, she was my guardian angel. She was my lifesaver.
Yeah, I'm sure she had to do pretty much everything for you.
She did for a while, and she had to do all my
other things.
Thinking.
Yeah.
I was, well, we'll get to that.
Okay, well, so just continue on. This makes
in
it
2006, I retired. I went on disability because I couldn't do a lot of the things I needed to be able to do. And I was put on the transplant list with the Cleveland Clinic. Okay, so from 2006 until 2020, 14 years, I did my life. I stayed active. I took my 34, 35 pills a day. I'd gain weight, I'd lose weight, I'd gain weight. 2015, they're like, this is getting serious. This has been a long time. So they said, tell you what, we just opened a branch of the Cleveland Clinic in Weston, Florida. Would you be able to relocate down there for the transplant? I had some relatives down there, and my wife was still teaching, and so we went in January, went down there and got evaluated, got on the list the day after we were evaluated, and they figured it would get me in fairly quick because the Cleveland Clinic down there was new to transplants. Now, they had one of the best surgeons in the country, Cedric Sheffield, but they just hadn't done enough to qualify for Medicare coverage. You had to do 15, so they figured, let's get him down there, give him a better chance. So we moved down there in January of 2015, had a couple false alarms where they called and said, hey, get ready. And then they called back and said, it's not viable. So, that's up and down and up.
Right. So, yeah, what is that like? Because the highs and the lows had to be so great.
When we were in Florida, it was extremely great, especially in 2015 and 2016, because we were afraid at first to even make dinner reservations. We took our golf clubs, so we would golf occasionally. You're afraid to make a tee time, so you get stuck with some of the crummier times if you don't have a tee time ahead of time. Emotionally, it was very draining. It really was. We joked about being on, okay, we're on plan B. Okay, by the end, we're on plan double ZX. We've gone through the alphabet a couple times. But in 2016, in May, I couldn't stand being away from the rest of my family. My wife had to come back. She only got to stay down there till July. She had to come back and teach the next year. I came back to Ohio in 2016 I had a brand new granddaughter, a son and a daughter. I had missed everybody's birthday. I'd missed Christmas. I had missed every holiday there was, a couple times for some of them. So I stayed on the transplant list up in Cleveland. But in the winters, I would go back to Florida.
Okay.
So I was dual listed at both places. And if they would have got a heart for me in Florida when I was up here, I had a retainer for a private jet from Burke Airfront to go down there. I never had to pay it. They had my credit card number in case it was needed. They could have got me down there in time. And
right.
I don't. So Cleveland Clinic here didn't have a heart transplant.
No. You got to understand this. This is the number one heart place in the world.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
There are so many people waiting for organs.
Oh.
So many people.
Okay.
That, and mine was severe. I had an ejection fraction of 15. Very simply, when your heart pumps in, it fills up. When it pumps out the blood, that's the percentage of blood it pumps out of that 100% is your ejection fraction. Mine was pumping out 15%. So my body wasn't working right. Defibrillator replaced with the CRTD, which also was a pacemaker, all the medication. So that they were keeping me alive. The Cleveland Clinic up here have people much worse shape than I.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I did the one thing most men can't do. I followed all their directions. The doctor said, do this. I did it. Mm-hmm. I took my pills. I did my workouts as much as I could. I did drop weight when I got to Florida. I dropped 40 pounds. And In fact, we continue the story with it in 2020, we had packed the car to go to Florida. January 15th, we packed the car. I went inside. Boom, my defibrillator fired. My wife goes, what does that mean? I said, she's been with me when it did it before, but the protocols always change. I said, it's nothing to worry about. They can happen one time. And I had a little machine in the corner that would always read it. I said, as long as it doesn't happen, boom, it got me again. I think I better get ready, and you can take me to the hospital. We'll get it checked. Boom, got a third one. I said, call 911.
Yeah.
Call 911. Yeah. The ambulance came there. I was pretty calm the rest of the night. Went to the Avon Cleveland Clinic since I was on the transplant list, and they transported me to downtown. And I waited there, in my mind, a couple days. Little did I know, about a day or so into it, I lost all memories. About 5 days in, I had been shocked already about 100 times. Okay, then they put me on a machine called an ECMO. ECMO basically does the work of your heart and your kidneys for you. So it's recirculating everything. It's like, I'm only a vessel that this stuff's running through. The machine is running it. It had tubes in me in about 5 different places. I was totally unconscious.
So it's almost like you're on life support, basically.
It was like, and I was also intubated.
Okay.
So I was on life support. And they say that the day before, about 25 hours before, I hit what was called a firestorm. I got shocked 100 times within a day. Shocked so much I found out later that my defibrillator quit working. It had used all the juice. It was only 2 years old. They last usually 4.
Right, because they have batteries inside of them.
Exactly, and you can't just pop it out and put a new battery in. You got a whole new procedure. I could have brought them. I've got 6 different defibrillators at home that they've had in me before.
Now, that also causes more damage to the heart getting shocked so much, doesn't it?
Probably.
At
Mine
that
was in
point,
such bad shape,
I'm
it
saying at
really
that point,
didn't
You had no other choice,
yeah.
but I'm just,
Exactly. Well, and I found out later then that since the battery was gone, they had to bring me back to life
paddles.
with the paddles quite a few times. I found that out by accident when I went in for an infection, and the doctor came into me in ICU, and he looks at me and goes, did you get a heart transplant in January of 2020? I said, yeah. He says, I'm so sorry for what I had to do to you. I said, what'd you have to do to me? He said, I don't remember how many times, but I shocked you at least a dozen.
Yeah, but you got to be here, though. I mean,
Exactly. That's the upside of all of this. I went through a lot of stuff to get there. I was out, and then I had a rough time during the transplant. I had a mini stroke during the transplant. Yeah, that's fun. I didn't lose any of my
I
real
tell.
abilities.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of my speech. I do have drop foot, so my right foot doesn't quite react like it's supposed to. But, and again, because of medications, I shake. But that's nothing compared to being
Where you were at.
Yeah, to reading your name on the paper on that obit page.
Yeah.
You won't be reading it.
I firmly believe I would. I mean, correcting spelling errors.
You will not be reading that.
But,
Let's take another quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to cover some of the other things you want to go over, all right? We'll be back with the Tuck and Tuck Show.
Welcome to Johnny's.
Johnny's Carryout is where you can find an extreme variety of your favorite spirits, wines, and craft beer. Located at 12290 Levitt Road, Oberlin, Ohio at the intersection of Butternut Ridge Road and State Route 58. Whether you are hosting a social get-together, relaxing at home, or entertaining guests, Johnny's Carryout has the perfect pairing. Come and check out our amazing selection of fine wines, our incredible collection of domestic and craft beers, and awesome assortment of premium spirits. We also have a variety of non-alcoholic selections. Visit Johnny's Carryout at 12990 Levitt Road in Oberlin, Ohio, today.
Welcome back to the Tuck and Tuck Show.
We're back on the Tuck and Tuck Show with Greg Friedman, and you were talking about your transplant when we left, so if you could just continue with that, that'd be great.
Okay, so I basically went to sleep about January 18th or so, as far as my mind went. Morphine played all sorts of tricks on my mind while I was out. I imagined everything I could. I guess when I was getting shocked, I thought for some reason that I was in jail and getting stabbed. I have no idea. It could have been somebody in the room said something that was subconsciously picked up. We don't know. But when I finally did wake up, I found out all sorts of things that happened, that I had a real rough time. And the doctor, who I do want to give you this quote, because Aaron Weiss saved my life. He's the transplant doctor. This page. Oh, come on, fingers work. Okay. When I was having relapses, I'd move a step forward, a couple steps back, and that's exactly how my daughter would say, we take a leap forward and then we go back 3 or 4 steps. But the doctor said to my wife, he said, the line from transplant surgery to wellness is not a straight line. It's jagged with ups and downs, but wellness is always the direction we'll be moving towards.
Okay.
So, Dr. Weiss, great guy. He took on a case that other people might not have. So I wake up, tubes all over the place because I was intubated. And I swore right then, other people are going to hear about this.
Okay. So now you had a transplant. Did you ever meet the people who gave you, the family of the person that gave you the heart?
I've had communication through letters.
Okay.
I've written a couple. They wrote back once, and for some people, that's all they need. For some people, they don't want to. Now, I have a friend. I showed her your picture when we took a break. She got married about 8 months after her transplant, and the father of the young lady that she got the heart from came to her wedding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was pretty special. For me, the letter meant enough. It gave me the guy's name. He's basically, he is my hero. I mean, he doesn't never met me, but he's my hero.
Yeah, that's great. Now, when they put the new heart, when you got a new heart in you, do you ever feel any different?
Sometimes I do. Now, people talk about, well, do you have any new things that you like now that you didn't before? Well, I've aged, so that's part of it. And I said, well, I never had allergies, and I do now. I'm on immunosuppressants, so my body can't fight things off like it used to.
So it causes a lot of other things. So,
it causes other things. I think that, I talk with Matthew every time I walk. I talk with him when I'm golfing. If I'm at home by myself and sitting out back looking at birds, and I think I didn't get that from him. I think that got just because I'm old now. Yeah.
And you have another whole nother degree on your life period.
Exactly.
I mean, you're in a whole nother space now. So that definitely will change your perspective.
It makes you look at everything.
Right.
It does. And I guess one of my shirts, I get a lot of shirts custom made, and one of them has a quote on it from a young athlete called Katie Bone. She's a rock climber traditionally, but she is a ninja warrior, and she was the female ninja warrior champion last year. And she goes by the quote, "I don't need easy, I just need possible."
Okay.
I love that. She's diabetic and wears the pump and everything and does the ninja stuff. That's an inspiration for me. So that's one of my mottos. I don't need easy, I just need possible.
Now, another thing is, all through COVID, how worried were you through COVID? Because I know that had to be like a scary time.
This is during the time you were doing the transplant.
Well, I got the transplant January 29th of 2020.
Right.
Okay, when I woke up, like the 14th or 15th, we're hearing little buzzes on the radio of COVID. By the time I went into rehab on the 29th, they're talking more serious about it. Now, I had to relive a couple days, sort of like Groundhog Day, for first few days. This is sort of off the track, but I remember learning that Kobe Bryant had died 3 days in a row. I never knew that I had heard it before. My son finally turned to my wife and he said, "Is he going to tell me the story about Kobe again?"
Yeah, I'm sure that.
So, they had some fun with that. I mean, they had to. They had to laugh. They had to find something to laugh about because there was nothing fun. But COVID, so I went into rehab basically the 1st of March. A couple weeks later, my wife told the rest of my family, "Nobody come visit anymore. We can't have it. We can't chance it."
Yeah.
About a day later, my wife gets a call. "You can't come in." So I spent the last 3 weeks in rehab with no visitors. Okay, when I did get out, and my wife's, saying things like, okay, I'm going to go to the grocery. You stay here. She said, I'm going to wear a mask the whole time. When I come back, we cleaned all the cans. I mean, we went over the top. Like, I thought everybody was doing it, but I knew she was doing this for me. Right. Bring the mail and leave it in the garage for 24 hours, that kind of stuff. It was hard. The only times I ever went anywhere was to doctor's appointments.
And even that's probably scary because everybody's sick of the doctor.
Whoops, sorry. There was nobody in the hospital.
Yeah. Okay.
We go to the hospital for appointments, the Cleveland Clinic, and they have a separate room for me for the blood draws. And if you've ever been to the Cleveland Clinic for a blood draw, there's a big room there. Yep, separate little room just for me. And go to my appointments, nobody waiting, nobody in the elevators, nobody in the halls, because they were only doing 100% emergency things. Transplant testing and afterwards is a vital thing that they couldn't stop.
Okay. I'm glad you made it through all that. You also do presentations on donors, right?
I do.
Donors and recipients. And
Life Bank is the organization in Northeast Ohio that is responsible for procuring the donations. Beautiful facility in Cleveland where when somebody passes and they are a registered organ donor, they're taken there, and that's where the organs are recovered.
Okay. So you wanted to tell us about organ donation, because that means a lot.
That means a lot to me, yes.
It has to.
I've got a friend sitting in the hospital waiting on a heart, and I mean, hearts are the only thing I can really speak on, but I do know that there are 3,000 people in Ohio and 100,000 patients on the national organ waiting list. It takes a lot to get on that list to begin with. Right. 1,000 kidneys, 150 hearts, 250 livers in Northeast Ohio alone. People waiting. I mentioned in 2015 I was in Florida for the year. That was the lowest year for organ donation in the country, ever. But there's very specific waiting lists, and there's specific status. If you're, this severe and on this medication and in the hospital, you're status 1, and this, and you're 2, and so on. And I was fairly healthy, so I was a 6 most of the time up until I wasn't. One person passes, and they're an organ donor. They can save up to 8 lives and improve the life of up to 75 people. Okay. They can recover 8 different organs.
So now, just to donate, now I put it on my license before. That's all you have to do?
That's all you
need, yeah.
And you only have to do it one time?
One time. They'll ask you every time.
Okay.
You're on you don't even have to do that, though. You don't even have to do it at there. You can go to, donate.org, and you can become a registered donor there. You can Google organ donation in Ohio, and it'll bring you to the site and bring the form up.
Okay, so it's easy.
It's easy. And if you already have your license and you learn about organ donation later, go on that site, you're on. And then the next time when you get your license renewed, you tell them then, okay, here's the trick thing. If you have minor children, they can say that they want to be an organ donor when they get their driver's license.
Okay.
Now, until they're 16, the parents can decide if they want their child to donate their organs. At 16, they can put it on their driver's license, but from 16 to 18, the parent can say, if the child passes, no,
we don't want to do.
We're not going to do that, and that's their right. At 18, they can't do that. Nobody can interfere with your right. Period. So that's important for the kids that are 16 to 18 that get their driver's license to have that conversation with their parents.
Okay. Now, what are some of the stigmas that prevent people from organ donation? Because I know we talked before the show, and you were saying a lot of people don't want to donate for whatever reason.
There are some people that actually think there are already enough organs. Okay.
Well, I mean, they don't know. Yeah, I
they
mean,
don't.
They don't know. Because when I was younger, I used to think that everybody's donating organs, so they should have plenty.
Well, and we are a country where you have to opt in. You have to say, I want to be an organ donor. There are many, many, many civilized countries where it's automatic, and you can opt out. But
now during COVID, when people were donating, did COVID affect if they could take the organs or not?
I do know that there were more organ donations in that time frame because more people died. They died with lungs that were bad. heart was still healthy, or kidneys were still healthy, or
liver was good.
Yeah, liver or pancreas or whatever. Any of the organs. One muscle can be, one organ can be affected, and the others are fine.
Okay.
And again, my dad, when he was 70 years old, had a cornea implant from a donor.
Oh, that's awesome.
People think that the doctors don't work hard enough. You're an organ donor. Well, here's the trick. First of all, that makes no sense.
It makes no sense at all.
But they think that, and I guess the reason that know that it's not true is they don't know if you're an organ donor till after you pass.
Right.
So they wouldn't have any way of knowing. And you have to actually be. It's a cruel term, but you have to be brain dead to have your organs donated. If your heart stops, you can't donate a heart.
Oh, so Matt could do it right now.
Well, there is no such thing as a living heart donor.
He has no heart.
People think they're too old. There are people that think they're too old.
Right.
Now, here's the deal. It's sort of like when you're working. Well, if I do this, I'll get in trouble. You know what? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
Same thing here. If you think you're too old, let them decide.
Yeah.
There are people that say it's against their religion. Not in this country. None of the organized religions. They almost all consider it the ultimate
sacrifice.
Yeah, the ultimate gift. Ultimate
you give somebody a chance at life.
Right. They think rich and famous people get first chance. They don't. That list is very organized, and the organ procurement organization, UNIS, that keeps all these lists, keep track of it, and one of the categories is not income.
Okay.
I can guarantee that. And and they think if they donate an organ, they must die. There are a couple of living organ donations too, not heart.
Yeah, it'd be kind of tough.
You know, there's a young man. I didn't want to get his name wrong, but I don't know if I printed it out. He's a Ninja Warrior also, and he wears a shirt that says "Share Your Spare." He was a kidney donor.
Oh, okay.
To his best friend when they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he won Ninja Warrior last year.
All
so
right.
It doesn't take away from his ability.
Right. All right. Well, this has been all. There's so much stuff that your story is so interesting. And before we go, what is your wife's name? Because I'm sure she's done way more than you've given her credit for or talked about. And I'm sure you should probably dedicate this to her because I'm sure she's been through a whole lot. And I know how you made fun of me during the break about candy. I know she had to put up with you too, so I know she's. So who is?
She's an angel. Becky, Rebecca. We've been married 47 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but it isn't. It's a long time, but it
isn't. It isn't.
She basically did all my worrying for me when I couldn't worry. When I came home, she did my worrying for me so I didn't have to. She had to buy and replace all sorts of things. She had to change bandages, change wound dressings, walk with me when I was trying to learn how to walk again. I mean, I because of all the circumstances, I was laid up in bed for a couple months. I mean, there were a lot of things, but she really,
yeah.
I'm not here if not for her. I mean,
exactly.
I credit the doctor. I definitely credit her. And my kids.
Doctor,
I mean, my kids were there all the
time.
Your
donor, your doctor,
right.
Your wife.
Well, two doctors, actually.
All the doctors.
Dr. Starling kept me alive long enough to get the transplant, and Dr. Weiss then did the transplant.
All right. You got anything else before we go?
Oh, I could talk forever.
I can see that. I can see
anybody that knows me.
All right, but it's been great having you. I mean, anytime you want to come back and talk about organ donation or whatever, because you're very interesting to talk to. So I had to do very little, and that's great for me because I don't get paid for this. So
you got paid the same amount. There you go. Have a Reese's cup.
Get another piece of candy.
All right.
Yeah, well, appreciate you coming on. Really do. It was a great interview. Like you said, we didn't even have to do anything, and it was very interesting.
Yeah.
So
anytime you need a guest, I'm just a phone call away.
All right. So we're gonna leave up out here now. Unless Morgan will say who's not here this week. Adios.
This has been another bomb-ass production from Short Walk Studios.